Hey guys, how's it going today? Today on the show, we hit up the track for the very last day of the 2022 season. Now, I believe I mentioned in the last episode that the last track day I went for street legals in my home city of Edmonton was the very last track day of the season, and it was. But I decided to make the trip 12 hours west, out to the west coast, to Vancouver, more specifically to Mission Raceway in Mission, BC, which is just outside of Vancouver, to try to get some good times at sea level. Now, you guys know, if you've been following me for any amount of time on my channel, how I've been harping about how badly the elevation sucks in my home city. We're at 2,200 feet above sea level, and every day this season, for the entire race season, I don't think I had a single race under 3,300 feet above sea level or 3,500 feet above sea level. Lots of races in the 4,300 feet above sea level and around there. So the air is not great. We're not getting amazing times. The elevation, the air, everything is just working against us. I've harped on it way too much as it is on my channel. So I figured the next best thing was to rip over to Vancouver now that the pandemic is done, restrictions are lifted, and the track is open. So I figured it would be a great time to rip over to Vancouver and get some times around sea level, so at least we can get away from this elevation and see if we can get some new best times with the header and cam setup on my 5.7 Challenger RT. Now, the last time I made the trip over to race at Mission Raceway is when my car just had long tube headers. Totally stock except for the long tube headers. That was at the very end of 2019. Now, on that trip, I was hoping for 12s, hoping I could just sneak in with only headers as my only modification. Unfortunately, that didn't happen that trip. The best I got was a 13.3. Now, this trip out, I really didn't have any big expectations for my car except for just trying to run a new best. I hit a 12.9 at my home track with my terrible elevation. I just wanted to see what I could squeak that out to at a half decent elevation, hoping that I was getting some decent air, we can get some good DA and a good time. Just a new best. That's all I was hoping for, is a new best time. Pulling back up to Mission Raceway, pretty much just how I remember it. Not a ton had changed in the 4 years since. The only thing is this track day, it was their last street legal night of the year, and it was packed. Now, one thing that Mission Raceway does a little bit different than Rad Torque Raceway or Castrol Raceway in Edmonton is everybody joins up for a specific class. Now, they have imports, they have domestics, they have kind of like a door crasher, kind of like the really high horsepower car class. And everybody runs in their class. They only call up a certain class, that entire class runs. Then the next class gets called up, that entire class runs. It's a little bit different. You just don't kind of line up and races happen to be what they happen to be. Everybody has their own class and everybody sticks in that class for their races. Now, this particular day was incredibly busy, like I mentioned, and because it was so busy and the last day, I feel like a lot of guys were trying to push things, push the envelope, see what they could do. And the downside of that is there was a crazy amount of crashes. Damn it. All right, guys. Literally waited half the night because there's domestic class here at Mission Raceway has been called once. And we've literally been sitting all night because there's been so many wrecks. Everybody's blowing up. Here we go. Now, I don't care so much about racing the guy that I'm racing. All I care about is getting a good time. That's it. So I'm going to watch my launch. I don't really care about anything except for this time. Okay, we're both staged. Good one, guys. That was a really, really, really good one. That was great. Solid launch. Felt super, super good. Solid. Shifts felt great. There was no hesitation. That launch was really shoved me back. I feel like that's a good 60-foot time. DA right now, I just checked before we did the run, is 858. That is amazing. I mean, I've been running at 4,000, 4,300, 4,500 all year. So I'm really, really curious to see how this went. Thank you, sir. Oh, guys, moment of truth. Nice. 12.6. 12.6. Not the worst. Not terrible. 12.6, fellas. 12.6. Okay, first run out of the way. Really just stoked to have a new best. A little annoyed about how late that took me to get just one run in. I was hoping to get as many runs as possible to try to tweak my setup, to try to tweak the launch, to really hopefully get some runs a little later in the day when it's a little cooler. Maybe that elevation drop a little bit, which didn't really end up happening for me, unfortunately. 12.6 was a good starting point though. 12.6 at 110. Not too bad. Now, although it was super late after that first run, I was still trying to stay in the positive and see if I could just cool my car down as much as I possibly could so that when the second time came to run, if it was maybe my last run because things were taking so long, that at least I would have a chance at getting a new best. Now, I've shared on the channel before, but how I like to cool my car down between runs is by running my cooling fan. The only downside to running your cooling fan is you're running it off your battery. So if you run it long enough, you do drain your battery. Now, just so happens that I really, really wanted that engine to be nice and cool to try to get a new best. I ran that cooling fan quite a lot to get it cooled right down. So by the time my class got called up again, the domestics, my car would not start. Now this threw me into a full-blown panic because I'm stuck in the pits with a car that won't start. All the domestics are lining up. I don't have jumper cables on me. And this could be the last run I can get for 2022. This could be my last chance possible to get a new best. I kind of went into a panic. Now, luckily, I've got really good friends across Western Canada, whether it's family moving out or through the band, meeting people like traveling and playing, or just friends who've moved out along the way. Now this particular friend, my good friend, Mr. Darren Boudreau, thank God, messaged me when he saw I posted on my Instagram that I was racing in Mission, and he messaged me literally as my car wouldn't start and said, "Hey man, are you racing at Mission Raceway? I live literally 10 minutes away from there now." Darren was a good buddy of mine who did special effects makeup for me for a lot of the music videos that I shot for my band or other bands. and he moved with his family out to Mission. Just so happens he messages me right in the nick of time, and I say, yes, please, I am stranded here. If you've got some jumper cables and you could rip down to Mission Raceway, you could save my last race of the year. So my good friend Darren, the absolute hero that he is, rips down super quick with a pair of jumper cables and boosts me just in time for me to get in line right at the end of the domestics class and still catch my second race. Darren, honestly, man, thank you. Thank you so much. You literally saved my life on that last one. That I would have gone 12 hours to get one run in. So like, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Okay. Got the camera facing the wrong way because they put me into the wrong lane, but that's okay. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, fuck. It worked out that I gave him a really big hit because he, I know that fella that I was racing. He's got a really weird, rare V8 Nissan, which is super weird. I've never even heard of it, but it was apparently a 350 horsepower V8 Nissan, like in early 2000s or something like that. I know nothing about the car, but we were talking in the pits when we had the downtime. Really interesting car, but I know he was running a lot slower, so having a little bit of extra time, giving him a bit of a hit so I could really make sure my launch was good, was definitely worth it. I wanted to be $4 grand, 4,500 launch, and I did, so that's good. Got that launch up where I want it. And then it made it more of a race because then I could chase him down a little bit. $98.11. Thank you, sir. Moment of truth. Fortunately, I couldn't let my car cool down. I had to leave it running in the lane, so I just left my fan on to try to compensate for that. 12.7. Damn. Yeah, 12.7s. If I could have kept my car cooler. Man, oh man. The only downside of that was I couldn't shut my car off because I didn't really trust that my car would be charged enough to start again after that. I mean, we got it started and we got it to the staging lanes, but if I shut it off and then I stalled again, I mean, that could ruin everything again. So the downside was all the cooling that I had taken advantage of, getting my temperature rate down to get some really good times, I kind of had to throw a lot of that out the window just to keep the car running. Now, I counteracted that by keeping my fan switch relay. I jumpered it so that my fan was constantly running no matter what, which helped a little bit keep it lower than like normal operating temperature, but it still wasn't what it would have been. It kind of just was what it was on this one. Now, we couldn't control the temperature and the elevation. I couldn't control the temperature of my vehicle. Those are a couple things out of my control. All I could do was go up and race and just do the best I could with the temperature that I could get my car down to. Fortunately, letting my car warm up that little bit, the best I could do was a 12.7 at 109. So I lost 1/10 and 1 mile per hour. That was the best that I could do. I just want to say thanks again to Darren for coming and boosting me, letting me get that second run in. That was super, super nice of him. After that, we was the very end of my class, and I went up to the stands, watched a few races with Darren, watched the other classes, the imports and the heavy hitters. And unfortunately, right at the very end of the heavy hitters, they shut it down. They called it, said that the traction wasn't good enough. I mean, one of the cars kind of like skittered a little bit when it was about mid-track. So they called the races, called it a season, and 2 runs was literally as best as I could get at Mission Raceway. And there you have it. That was it for the 2022 season. New personal best of 12.6 at 110 miles per hour. I gotta say, honestly, like for the air that I was running in and everything, like that was excellent. You know, with a little bit better air, I'm sure I could have knocked a couple tenths off that, been close to around, you know, a 12.4 or 12.3, something like that, if we got some of that negative air that we were hoping for. But honestly, with the air, that's a pretty decent time. And I gotta say, I'm super proud of my setup. I'm super proud of my car. You know, we started, when I very first started stock, my very, very best time was a 14 flat. When I very first started this channel, 14 flat was the best I could run. Now we've knocked that down to a 12.6 at 110. We've come a long, long ways from a 14 to a 12.6. And there's still more room to grow. Next year, I'm looking forward to some more new bests, some more new things. I just want to say thanks so much, guys, for coming with me on the journey. It's been a long one, and we've come a long ways. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around, checking out my races through the years. Much appreciated. And we'll catch you guys later. Cheers.